They laughed at Africa, mocked its leaders, plundered its riches, and said it would never rise. But today, one man is proving them all wrong, and the world is watching in disbelief. Centuries of colonization, exploitation, and deception turned the cradle of civilization into a resource warehouse for foreign powers. And when Africa tried to speak, the West silenced it with loans, conditions, and coups. But Africa's story didn't end there. A new chapter was beginning, written by the hands of young revolutionaries who refused to kneel. At the center of this storm, a soldier turned symbol, Captain Ibrahim Traore. No one saw it coming. Not France, not America, not even the African Union. Traore wasn't playing politics. He was rewriting the game. He kicked out foreign troops, took control of his nation's gold, and said, Africa will no longer bow. His actions triggered panic in Western capitals. Why? Because one African country had just shattered the illusion, and the effect was contagious. Mali, Niger, Guinea, all began moving in step. A new alliance was forming. But this isn't about revenge. It's about rebirth. Traore's mission isn't to destroy the old, but to build the future. He speaks to African youth, not as a ruler, but as a brother, a voice reminding them that the future is not imported. It's forged. But history isn't made in a day. Traore has enemies, powerful ones. The same empires that once enslaved now operate in silence. And yet people believe, not just in him, but in themselves. For the first time in generations, Africans are writing their own destiny. They said Africa would never rise, that it would always be broken, dependent, lost. But one man lit a match. And now, the fire is spreading. This is not the end. This is only the beginning. Watch out for more here. They underestimated the resolve of a continent. But what happened next stunned the world. For years, Africa's resources were looted. But now, new leadership is rewriting the rules of engagement. Captain Ibrahim Traore and others began saying no to foreign deals that stripped Africa bare. This wasn't about weapons. This was about economic firepower, control of gold, uranium, and oil. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, forming a new union, not under the West, but on their own terms. From Accra to Ouagadougou, youth are rising, not with violence, but with vision. You won't see this on CNN. The West wants silence, but the truth can't be buried. Africa's rise isn't isolated. It's shaking up the global order. China, Russia, Latin America, all watching closely. They thought Africa would never rise. But one man, and a generation behind him, proved them all wrong. While the world focused on headlines, something deeper was unfolding in silence. Underground alliances, secret meetings, a Pan-African blueprint was being drawn, and Captain Ibrahim Traore was central to it. Behind closed doors, he met with advisors, historians, and economists, not to seek approval from the West, but to learn how to outsmart it. His goal? To quietly sever every colonial string still tethered to Burkina Faso, from banking to agriculture to military operations. While global powers dismissed him as a rebel, Traore was calculating every move like a chess master. He wasn't just fighting for his country. He was challenging centuries of control. And the West? They didn't even realize the board had changed. Until it was too late. They thought he'd never touch the economy. Too risky. Too bold. But Traore did the unthinkable. He began preparing Burkina Faso to abandon the CFA franc, a colonial currency controlled by France. His administration launched studies on sovereign currency alternatives, modeled after Zimbabwe's gold-backed ZiG, and supported by African economic theorists. He held talks with nations like Mali and Guinea to explore joint currency frameworks. The West called it economic suicide. But Traore called it economic resurrection. For the first time, Burkina Faso was choosing monetary freedom over fear. And other African nations? They started listening and copying. Then came the moment that shook Paris. Traore revoked several defense and mining agreements with France, some of them decades old. Uranium deals, gold contracts, military bases, all gone in one stroke of a pen. French diplomats scrambled. Newsrooms in Europe panicked. Military analysts warned of growing instability. But on the streets of Ouagadougou, celebrations erupted. People waved Burkinabe flags and danced. For them, it wasn't instability. It was independence. France tried to regain influence. But Traore had already sealed new deals with Russia, China, and regional African partners. France was locked out. Africa was locking in. Traore knew that wars would no longer be won only on the battlefield. The future was digital, and Africa had to catch up fast. So he launched a national tech initiative. Coding academies opened. Youth were trained in cybersecurity, blockchain, AI, and fintech. But here's the twist. They weren't just learning. They were building African-designed apps for banking, farming, and communication. A decentralized network of African coders began to emerge, not dependent on Silicon Valley, but homegrown. Traore called them digital warriors. In a matter of months, Burkina Faso transformed from a tech consumer to a tech creator. The West wasn't ready for this kind of innovation, especially not from the Sahel. Unlike past regimes that used the military to crush dissent, Traore flipped the script. He restructured the armed forces to serve the people, not suppress them. Soldiers were deployed to protect farmers, not gold mines. To guard schools, not foreign embassies. He rooted out corruption within the ranks. Appointed ethical commanders. Introduced military service programs tied to community development. And it worked. Trust in the army soared. The people began to view soldiers not as threats, but as guardians. This was military reform with a moral backbone, something the colonial powers never expected. They said Africa would never rise, that it would always be broken, dependent, lost. But one man lit a match. And now, the fire is spreading. More is coming. This is GlobalWire. Stay empowered and stay African.